We Catholics are a people of context, aren't we? We're people of context. What I mean by that is the context of certain days really shapes what we do. What I mean by that is this. On December 25th, we always do something special, don't we? Because the context of December 25th is the birth of Jesus. So when I talk about Christmas and that event, all kinds of things come to our mind, and it shapes the way that we live and that we think and the way we celebrate that day. That's what I mean. We're people of context. You do it on your birthdays and anniversaries. We're a people who are very tied to special days and important days, anniversaries of death, like November, praying for the souls of the faithful departed. Today we're in a context of multiple things. November 11th, 1918, World War I, the war to end all wars, ended. And Veterans Day was established. Hopefully be a constant reminder of the need to work towards freedom and peace. And we stand in that context, 100 years after. It's important to remember things like that, isn't it? We stand in the context of the month of November, where we as Catholics pray very sincerely and wholeheartedly for those who have died. We also stand in the context now of what we are doing here at St. Paul's. That is that we are looking very seriously at what does it mean? How do I become a saint? How do I become great in God's eyes? How do I turn my life more over into the hands of God and become more like Jesus? We're in the third part of our Harvest Sermon series, which has been building upon several homilies and several sermons. And it's all about this context of how do we change the course of human history? How do we really make the world a different place? A place of love and peace and goodness? Isn't that what we all want? It doesn't just happen. And there's no magic fairy dust to sprinkle over our planet that's going to make us all magically be good. It happens by us. It happens by each one of us making a commitment to be the people that God wants us to be. Every day to make that commitment to be like that man Jesus. He does have power to change the world. That's the good news. He does have power. He doesn't have fairy dust, but he has grace. Power comes from him. He does. He does have power. And what we do in our lives as Christians is we turn to him, and you might not believe that. You might not believe that he has power. I absolutely do. And I've seen it at work. I've seen people also turn away from that power and do very bad things. So it's not magic. It's a relationship with one who has the power to change our lives. That's what's so interesting and challenging about Christianity is it's not a philosophy of life. It's not just a bunch of dictums to live by. It's a relationship with a living God. That's the challenge with it. It's like a relationship. You who are in relationships, you know, relationships are wonderfully challenging. Huh? But you wouldn't have it any other way, would you? Or would you? No. We are in a relationship with this man, Jesus, and the community which he established that would absolutely transform the world if we allow it to transform us. That's the hinge. It's not going to transform the world aside from us. It's going to transform the world through us, in us. Do you want your home life to be different? Well, painting the walls will maybe make your house a little different, but it's not going to change your home. Changing your heart might change your home life. Changing behaviors will change your home life. changing our thinking. That's what I'm talking about. And Jesus has the power to work in here in a powerful way. We've been talking about this idea that we reap what we sow, which is the harvest principle. You plant wheat seeds, you're going to get wheat in the end if you do it right. What do I want to have? What's the harvest I want in my life? What's the fruit? What's the end fruit I want to have in my life, in my family, in my world, in my church? Because we're going to reap what we sow. I can't plant an apple seed and expect to get a cow. That's obviously silly. But I think we need to look at our own lives and say, am I doing something that silly in my own life? Am I doing something that preposterous in my own life? I know I'm looking at my own life because I look at the world, I look at the news, I look at myself and go, just because a man says he's a priest and doesn't mean that he's going to be holy, right? It takes real sowing to reap that. And I don't know about you, I have the incredible capacity to convince myself of about anything. I have the capacity to deceive myself. Well, this won't be so bad. Reap what you sow. So we are in a context here of all of the things that I've just mentioned. I think we all desire the world to be a better place. We desire our homes to be amazing and our lives to bear much fruit. I want to offer an invitation in the course of this context for you and I to how do they say? To make a commitment. I don't know, where the rubber meets the road. Getting down to brass tacks. Isn't that what they call it? I don't know where you get those phrases from, but for us to think very seriously about, we're going to sow some very specific things in our life. I think sometimes we need to be asked, are you going to do it? Yes or no? I can picture Jesus with his disciples. Do you remember this scene? Jesus was with the disciples. He had multiplied loaves and fishes for thousands of people. And then he began to explain to them that miraculous gift of food was going to be symbolic of a new miraculous food that he was going to give later in the Eucharist. And he said that the bread that I give you is my flesh for the life of the world. The bread that I give you is real food. The cup is real drink unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood. Have you heard that before? It's John chapter 6. But in the context of that, many people left Jesus. They're like, I just disagree with that. I can't wrap my head around it. I disagree. You offend me. And many left. And Jesus turned to the 12, to the apostles, and he looked them square in the eye, and he says, are you two going to leave me? That's the ultimatum. Are you going to leave? Because I need you to make a commitment right now. That's what he's saying. Jesus is saying to them. You're going to have to make a commitment because you're a follower, but at some point we have to become leaders. We can become a follower for a while, but at some point we have to accept it ourselves, and then we have to be leaders in that sense. I have to lead my life, I have to lead my family, or whatever it is I'm leading. Are you going to leave me? And then Peter, who I love, he's my patron saint. Peter turns to Jesus and says, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of everlasting life. And we believe and are convinced that you are the Holy One of God. Boom, that's it. That's it. St. Peter says, I'm in. And he signed me up, and he put his name right there, the little X with the line under it, signature, boom, that's what he did. Figuratively speaking, right? Boom, there it is. That's what we need to do. What is it that we need to say, that's it, I'm in. I'm going to go for it. I want to be like Jesus. I don't want to settle for the things of this world. I want to settle for the things of heaven. That's not easy, and each of us are going to do that in our own way, and it's going to look different in your life than it is in mine, but it's all going to fall underneath the principles that Jesus has given us. I want to help you make some commitments in your life, because we all need to. If we don't make commitments, then we're not sowing anything, and it's just random and luck if something happens. We want to be intentional with our lives. Christ was intentional. He intentionally chose those people. He was intentional with his miracles. He was intentional with his words. He was intentional with his life and giving it. He was intentional. So I need to be intentional, and you do too. I want you to be intentional in 3 areas of your life. I want to invite you this week to be intentional in 3 areas of your life to make a commitment. In the parish bulletin this weekend, as you grab one and check it out, there's an insert in there of a way for you to literally write down, I'm going to commit to A, B, and C in my life. What are you going to commit to spiritually? What are you going to commit to spiritually in your life, in terms of your prayer life, your encounter with God, to make a commitment to it? What am I willing to do? I'm going to commit to something. And I've given some examples there in the bulletin, and there could be others. It's not an exhaustive list by any means, okay? It doesn't have to be one of the things that are there in the bulletin, but to commit to something. I am going to spend 15 minutes every day in prayer before I go about my day. Something like that, for example. Can you commit to that? If you're already making prayer time, great. Just ratify it again. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep this a part of my life because it's a commitment to me. I'm going to be intentional about this. And if I've made that intention, but then things have crept in my life and my 15 minutes has turned down to 8 minutes, well, then I'm going to commit to pushing that out and getting back to 50, whatever it is. Something spiritual. Be scriptural reading, prayer, there's lots of things. Attending Mass on Sunday. You think about what it's going to be. Just make a commitment to that. A commitment to some form of service. Some form of service. And again, you are all doing a lot of things, and you're all busy people. I want to hearken back to one of the first messages we gave in this series 6 weeks ago is, we all have a plate. It's our life. This is the life. This is my plate. And all of our plates are very full. I know very few people who are like, man, my plate's empty. No, we all have very full plates in our life. We are living in very busy times. So I'm not asking you just to add something else on there. In order for you to add something on there like a service or prayer, you're going to have to remove something. That's part of the intention. What am I willing to remove or decrease in order to put something else on there intentional about my faith and about the transforming of my life in the world? So you might have to do that. And then I want to commit to something, some ministry, some form of service. And look at those. They're on there. And then inspired by the widow today, the 2 widows from a book of Elijah, who served the prophet Elijah, and the widow in the temple today. What am I doing with my resources and my treasures? Have I ever made a commitment to that? Because it's different when I make a commitment to something. I signed up for my cell phone. I had to make a 2-year commitment. But I did. I made a 2-year commitment. Am I willing to make a commitment like that for the work of the church? Those are hard. These aren't easy. I have to do it too. But it's about prioritizing things in my life. I'm going to reap what I sow. Am I willing to say, this is how I'm going to order my life? That's what the commitment is about. It's about the ordering of my life based upon the principles that I believe are the most important and true. That's how things change. That's how it changes. I'm going to make commitments in my life around the things that I believe are most true, the principles I hold on to, and let them rule my life. And not be the ping pong, the little pinball, that just gets thrown around by the world, and I happen to be at church this week. No. I made a commitment to be here. I've prioritized to do this service. No, that prayer time today wasn't by accident because I had a time. I chose that. No, I went to the gym because that's important to me, and I went there intentionally. No, I went to that nursing home to serve because that's who I am, and those are God's people, and I chose to be there. That's what I'm talking about. So I invite you to take that form and just fill one out. Just fill one out. And again, many of you are already doing these things, so you're just saying, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Praise God if that's you. For some of us, it might be, wow, 2-year commitment? Dang. I'm not asking you to make a 2-year commitment. You know, these are all things that we can take to God in prayer and renew as needs to be done. Just take that. I invite you to do that. As I wrap up, let's place ourselves again in the context of where we are. We are here to call to mind the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. It's the Sunday, it's the Lord's Day. To call to mind the man who made the greatest commitments in life and held them true and was faithful to them. And through his death and resurrection, has unleashed a wonderful power of grace and love into the world into which we have been invited to live it and to share it with others. And through that living and sharing with others, lives become transformed. And people throughout human history have made all kinds of wonderful commitments to change the world. That's what we want to do today. We want to change the world and to give thanks for those who have tried to change it, and those who have done their part, and those whose lives have gone to rest, that God would give to them the reward of their labors. May the souls of all the faithful departed, the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen.